So again, I probably don't need this. So my name is Brad Jones. I run a website called thecinemasnob.com. I also run the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Stoned Productions. We do original movies. We released a movie last year called Disco. We released another movie last year called Jesus Bro, which was our parody film. We have an animated series called, right? No, that's a different one. That's Let There Be Light. I do an animated series called Lloyd, the animated series about a Siamese cat private detective based on my own Siamese cat named Lloyd, who is also a private detective. I just study his case files. We do current movie reviews on a show called Midnight Screenings, where we go see a movie on the preview screening, we go out to the car afterwards, be it hot or cold, and talk about it in the car for like a half an hour or so. Sometimes in like 100-degree heat, sometimes in 0-degree temperature. But we've been doing this like 11 years, so we've had a lot of shows and movies since then. I probably only covered about half of it. I didn't even cover the show that I do where I just sit there and try food for 5 minutes. Sometimes you run out of ideas over 11 years and go, I got it. I'm gonna create a show where I sit there and eat food for 5 minutes and talk about it to the camera. Lo and behold, it's actually kind of a hit show. Not this other thing that I spent like months writing and put all this editing in. Oh no, me doing a video where I do the 1-chip challenge and try a Carolina Reaper chip with like 1,000,000 Scovilles, and I'm sitting there crying my eyes out because it's so hot, chugging a gallon of milk. That gets way more hits than like our expensive animated series. That's what I need to do. I need to do an episode of my animated series where the cat Lloyd just eats a hot chip for 10 minutes, and it'll be the most popular episode of that show. Usually whenever I do these, I open it up as a Q&A. I talk about like different micro-budgeted movies we've done, what kind of went into making what goes into maintaining a YouTube series for 11 years. All kinds of different things we usually talk about at these. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about our site, any of our movies, any of our shows, how we got started, or anything, go for it. No one? Okay, good.
What's the most memorable Brad tries so far? Other than
Probably the chip.
Yeah,
Well, the chip was the most painful for 2 ways, going in and coming out. It's arguable which one was worse. And you know what? It was probably worse coming out because I couldn't just get a funnel and shove milk up my ass. Like, oh, soothing, oh my god. I'll get double the hits if I put this one on there. That was the most painful, but the worst one was I did a Reggie bar. A Reggie bar is this candy bar that Reggie Jackson put out in the 1970s. It's essentially a bun bar, but it's got Reggie Jackson's face on it, so it's different. And then in the 90s, they like brought it back, because I think somewhere around there, like Ken Griffey was getting a candy bar, so they like re-released the Reggie bar. And I found one on eBay, and I think it was from that 90s re-release. So it was a 20-year-old candy bar, and when you're going between a 20-year-old candy bar or 40 years, does it really make a difference? You're gonna die. It's like, okay, this guy died from peanuts that were a little older. That was the word. That tasted like just eating a warehouse. A warehouse with the Ark of the Covenant inside of it. It might as well have been filled with spiders. At least then it would have, at least the spiders would have been aged as much as the candy bar. That was rough. I could not get that taste out of my mouth for like the rest of the day. I ran to the bathroom, I was like chugging this like mouthwash, I was brushing my teeth, and it was just there for the rest of the day. I'm like, well, I guess I live with this now. This is just, every food is gonna taste like old baseball player candy bars now. It's actually been really cool that we're doing this weekend because we just started an Indiegogo campaign for our next big budget movie. In 2012, we did the Cinema Snob Movie, the movie version of our main show, which was kind of this like fake origin story. And it did really, really well for us. It got really good reviews, and it's still very popular whenever we go to these conventions. And for a while, we were bouncing back and forth different ideas to do a sequel on, and I'd never written a sequel for one of them. Well, I had written sequels for my movies before, but just none of them got made. So this one, we started our Indiegogo campaign like yesterday, so that's been cool to like sit there at the table and talk about like the sequel for this movie that's coming out. So if you go to twitter.com/thecinemasnob, it's got like, I'm going to be spamming people's Twitters for like the next 45 days, like promoting this Indiegogo campaign. So yeah, if anyone gets a chance, especially people watching it on video camera, go check out our Indiegogo page. Any other questions? Yeah.
So how sick did you get with the infamous Brad Tries Zima episode?
I've gotten sicker before. See what I mean? Like, it's even the most popular show in terms of questions at the convention. So when you ate this food and took a wicked shit afterwards. No, that was, I chugged a 20-year-old bottle of Zima on an episode of this show, and afterwards I went to, I was feeling a little bit in the stomach, and I was going to, I think, a bachelor party that night, and so I was like, man, I'm gonna be, one way or another, this night's gonna end with me throwing up. So I was like, I better throw up the Zima right now, so it's just not that on top of whatever other booze I'm gonna be drinking for the rest of the night. So went to the bathroom, got the Zima out of my body, and I was fine after that, except for the next morning when I was hungover from the bachelor party, but those were kind of unrelated. I had gotten sick before. Like I did an episode on some kind of energy drink that was like some rooster. It had the word rooster in the name. I can't. But I did that at the same time I did an episode on this thing called the Candwich. The Candwich is a sandwich in a can. Now it sounded more interesting and kind of like, because you tell me something's called the Candwich, I'm thinking like, okay, so it's just like a spoon and you're just eating like bits of bread and whatever, just chopped up meats inside of it and mayonnaise, like the sandwich equivalent of the pizza in a cup from the jerk. So it wasn't that. It was just you emptied out this can. It was bread and it was bread and like a thing of peanut butter and a thing of jelly, and you just made the sandwich yourself. They just put the ingredients of it in a can and wrap it in plastic. So that mixed in with this energy drink that I had, I got a little sick. My stomach doesn't. My stomach can handle 30-year-old sodas, different kinds of booze, different other things, the old candy bars. Something about energy drinks my stomach doesn't like. My stomach says yes to everything else. It says yes to all these fast food places. Like every week when I go and get some McNuggets, it draws the line at energy drinks. I got a little sick of that. And I probably had 12 Candwiches since then. I'm kidding, they discontinued that shit. I think. I hope. Anyone else? Yeah.
Is there ever a movie you haven't reviewed that you started watching, or like either you just wouldn't get anything out of it, or it just was too?
Yeah, but it was one that I later on went and still did an episode on. It was a movie called Hitler's Harlot. The main show that I have on my site is called The Cinema Snob. I play this very like pretentious art critic kind of character who's like grumpy and nitpicky about everything. He just nitpicks about total bullshit in these movies. So on that show, I think several years ago, I sat down to watch this thing called Hitler's Harlot, which is this early 70s like Nazi exploitation movie. And all it was just fucking. Like that's it. Like there wasn't any kind of, there really wasn't anything else to it. It was like guy in SS outfit goes out to these girls in the lobby and is like, "Oh, you next!" And they go in there and they start fucking, and then he goes and gets someone else, and like that's the movie. So I was like, I can't show any of this. Like I was like, what can I show? Like 30 seconds of this movie, and I brought it up at a con. I think at MagFest I brought it up, and someone was like, "Well, I'll do an episode on it." And I'm like, yeah. We're getting into a dick measuring contest about fucking Hitler's harlot, like really? So I was like, all right, I'll do an episode on it. So I did. I managed to milk it for like 10 minutes. I think I got like 10 or 12 minutes out of this movie, but it's happened. That's really the only time that something like that's happened. It's happened before where I picked something for an episode. So a lot of times I'll pick something for an episode and I've never seen it before. So I kind of like the challenge of like, let's see if I can do something with this, because now I'm committed to it. And one time that bit me in the ass, sorta, was Bat Pussy. I had picked this movie to do an episode on called Bat Pussy. It's the worst porno you'll ever see in your life. It's amazing in so many ways. It is a group of fucking drunk people in somewhere in the South, like in Tennessee, maybe somewhere in Texas, and they are drunk off their asses, like just verbally berating each other over and over and over again. And there's a plot, sure, let's call it that, where like Bat Pussy like gets on one of those bouncy balls and bounces down the highway. It's like, I gotta stop these people from fucking. And then she goes and then she fucks them. that's the plot. So like the guy, they're so drunk, like the guy can't get it up in the movie. He's like, I'm sorry, baby. She's like, you worthless piece of shit. I gotta hand it to these two actors. There was no script in this movie. They managed to like get like an hour's worth of dialogue just yelling at each other. You can hear like a crew member just belch in the background. It's insane that this even has a crew to begin with. It's not insane that they're drunk, but you can just hear them. You can hear them like give the actor like action like throughout the whole thing. So I had picked this for an episode. I was watching footage of it, and again, I was like, they're just like fucking through this whole thing, just yelling at me. What can I show this on YouTube? So I kind of got stuck into doing that, but then I put out like an uncut DVD and I redid the episode, because the world needs to see these two fuck. Anyone else?
When it comes to something like that, when you're putting out DVDs like that, do you have to concern yourself with rights issues or anything like that?
No, because when you do DVD episodes, you pick stuff that's like in the public domain, stuff that doesn't have rights, that you can just put out a DVD like that.
So anybody can do Bat Pussy?
If you want, if that's your goal in life. If you wake up and you're like, I have one dream in this world, I want to bang Bat Pussy. Dude, that was 50 years ago, that's someone's grandma. Yeah, I mean, you know, like, if there's a lesson to be learned from my site and my career and my show, it's follow your dreams. You too can watch Bat Pussy for a living and eat old candy bars. I'll be shocked if I make it to 50. Did you raise or?
Kind of. How awkward is it the first time any of your girlfriends saw you watching porn? You're like, no, it's for the sites. Like,
well, my wife's right here. Well, she doesn't know that yet, dude. Hey, honey. This is what I do for a living, baby. No, not very. Like, in the past, I mean, you already knew what I did for a living beforehand. I remember if I would meet, like, the parents, sometimes it would be hard to phrase it, like, because I'd never be like, oh, yeah, I watch porn for a living. Wink. No, I would put it, like, how do I put this? Do I say, like, oh, I do, like, internet videography? Because that just sounds like I make porn. I think there's a term for it. I think it's called like content creator or something like that. But like, who the fuck knows what that means? Again, that could still mean porn. I think. What did you tell your parents? You haven't yet.
No.
They think I'm a restaurant manager.
I just said you did videos on YouTube and you made movies and
Oh, okay. I'm a filmmaker.
you reviewed movies and
I
stuff.
am an award-winning filmmaker. I won Worst Picture of the Year at the Route 66 Film Festival. There would be, I remember when I was watching, there's this movie called A Serbian Film. I don't know how many people have heard of this movie. Like, it's a rough sit, man. Like, I've seen 4 E.T. pornos. This movie was a rough sit. It's got a scene in it with it involves a baby, and it's like just sort of like, what the fuck? Like I wrote and directed a movie about snuff films, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? So that was one where my girlfriend at the time, she was in the other room, and this particular movie came on. Like, this movie's got skull fucking in it and all kinds of stuff. I remember I kept the remote close to me because I'm like, first of all, I don't even. Is this movie legal to have? Like, I mean, this isn't an official DVD, all right? So I remember keeping the remote close by in case, like, my girlfriend at the time walked in, because I'd be like, how do I explain this? Like, oh, honey, there's context to this skull fucking. You're just, let me pause it and fill you in. That way you can break up with me. Yeah.
How do you find your movies?
How do I find them?
Yeah, from the site.
Oh, well, some of them might come from my own collection. Some just come from like, okay, let's say I'm doing an episode of the Cinema Snob that's like a tie-in episode. Like, okay, like let's say last year when The Mummy came out. I don't know why that's the first movie off the top of my head, but like, let's say last year when The Mummy came out, I'd go and just do a search for just something from the 70s with Mummy in the title, and if something stuck out at me, like, okay, let me look into this. Same with like, you know, Jurassic World coming out, is going and typing in the word Jurassic and seeing what kind of old exploitation movie comes up. Other times it's like, okay, I did an episode on this thing called Fun in Balloon Land, which is like this Zapruder film of kids movies. It's this. It was made, I think, sometime in the early 70s, and it was this movie that was made to promote this balloon company. It is mostly just filming this parade, and it feels like if a parade were to happen in purgatory, that's what this movie. I don't know, it's overcast, and there's all these horrifying looking balloons. There's this narrator who sounds like the ant from Sleepaway Camp. It might be the same freaking person for all I know. And she's like doing all these puns and everything, like hickory dickory dock, there's the mouse clock, like all this, and like, is she drunk? Like, all right. So when I found that, that was recommended because I did an episode once on a movie called Noogie, this bad E.T. ripoff, and I was on some site where it said like, if you like Nookie, which what? If you like Nookie, you would like Fun in Balloon Land, and boy, are they freaking right. So sometimes it just sometimes I have an idea what I want to do, other times it's just something that comes like from a search recommendation. Usually I have it pretty planned out what movie I'm going to do next.
Is Nuki still the worst one, or is there something past that yet?
Nuki, I'm sure, like, objectively speaking, like, Nuki wouldn't be the worst movie made. Like, I mean, since then, I had to watch this movie called Santa's Christmas Elf Named Calvin, which is an entire movie that's just still shots. It's puppets, and they're like, and it's an elf named Calvin, and the other elves don't like Calvin, so Calvin goes to live with this little girl, and then Santa goes to find him, and Santa's searching for him in the park while wearing sunglasses and an overcoat. Like, bro. Like, That movie, it is just, there's no motion, it is just in still shots, as if they're trying to make this sort of storybook movie. Didn't work. So that was, objectively speaking, probably worse than Nuki. I don't know. I guess at least with Santa's Christmas Elf named Calvin, it's like, okay, well they put a lot of work into the puppets, I guess. Nuki is the one that made me the most mad. Like, that was pretty early on into the show. Like, Nuki was the one where I like had to take a break, like halfway through, and like rethink my life. Like, this is what I want to do. I have to go out for a walk, a 12-hour walk. No, but that was probably the most upset I got while watching something. But I've kind of built up a little bit of a tolerance since then. My wife, on the other hand, hasn't yet. I had to watch this movie called Baby Huey's Christmas Adventure. Now, if you don't remember Baby Huey, that was the big man baby duck in a diaper. And they decided it would be a good idea to make a live-action movie based on Baby Huey, this big giant man baby duck in a diaper. He joins a baseball team at the beginning of the film, and they're like, "There's no rule that says a giant duck wearing a diaper can't play baseball." Why the fuck would there, idiot? Like, so it's an annoying movie, and like halfway through it turns into a musical where the man baby duck is sitting by the lake and he's like, "No one loves me!" And it's that line repeated again and again and again, and I'm sitting there watching it just kind of like, I don't know if it's Stockholm Syndrome towards these movies, but I'm sitting there watching it like, yeah, this is certainly one of these. Meanwhile, my wife is there trying to sleep, while this duck is sitting there screaming like, "I'm so alone!" And my wife is like, you know, she's under the covers like, "This is the worst fucking movie you've had to watch!" And I'm sitting there like, well, when you see about 100 of these, like, you don't get as upset about them anymore. You know what? Well, I guess I could just ramble for an hour more.
How did you get started in this and reviewing and finding your niche and like exploitation and things of that nature?
Well, I had made a few movies before that. Like, I'd done 3 movies, I believe. I did a movie called Freak Out, which was a 70s era serial killer movie. I made a movie in 2005 called Cheap that was about snuff filmmakers. I did an 80s cop movie in 2007 called Midnight Heat, and I would kind of show a lot of those like locally. They never really went anywhere. Like, it was after finding an audience online that those movies then found an audience. But I started The Snob in 2007 or 8. How long have I been doing this? It was 2007? Thank you. I have no fucking idea. There will be like people who come up to me at the table, adults, and they'll be like, "I grew up watching you," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, I have been doing this a long time." So 2007, I started the Cinema Snob, and I was working a part-time job. I didn't have much to do like during the days, on days where I wasn't hungover. I wasn't doing much during the day, so like I grew up watching horror, exploitation movies, all of that in the 70s and 80s. Like, my parents didn't give a shit what I watched. So I grew up like slasher movies, Italian horror movies, all of that. And at the time on YouTube, there weren't very many shows that were kind of spotlighting that. Like, YouTube was kind of new-ish at the time. And I was like, well, let me do something fairly comedic on this. Like, let me maybe do like a riff on both the movies and also like what happens when like a really pretentious highbrow art critic has to kind of like snark his way through these and like really nitpick about stuff that's like not even there and like just get shit wrong. So that was where the show came from, and it was a lark. It was just like, oh, this might be fun to do, and I had a blast doing it right away. So I kept doing it. It wasn't until like 2 years in that it became like my full-time job, and I got picked up on Channel Awesome, and was in the anniversary movies and all that. And through that, it just has over the years just gained more and more of a following over time. And because of that show, you know, my movies got an audience. I'm able to do other shows like the Lloyd animated series, and I get to watch all these crazy movies too, like all the E.T. pornos. So it helped that I started really at the right time, 2007. That was a good time to start on like a show like this. Now there's a lot of shows like that. It is very hard to find your voice nowadays that's different from the rest of them. And I even had to kind of find my comedic voice too when I started that show, because my experience in acting at the time was dramas. Like the 3 movies I had done before then were pretty dark. Were pretty dark. Like I was a serial killer in like all of them. So I was very used to playing much darker, more dramatic characters. So then in doing comedy like the Cinema Snob, like those early episodes are fucking awkward. It's like me sitting there as someone trying to find like their voice in comedy. Now I can do it in my sleep. Kind of like watching the movies too. I could watch Baby Huey in my sleep. Or maybe not. My wife couldn't sleep while watching.
Was there a video that you did that suddenly just kind of exploded in popularity that you're like, oh, that one, this is the one that's got me where I am?
For the Cinema Snob?
Yeah.
Yeah, E.T. the Porno.
Yeah.
E.T. the Porno was in the 2nd or 3rd year that I was doing this. That was the first one to go on Channel Awesome. So that wasn't even the first one I scheduled on there, but like dude who was doing scheduling on there at the time was like, oh, people will flock to this, it's E.T. getting fucked. So that's really kind of the one that really kind of gained it. It's a much bigger audience. And I've seen 4 of these since then. There are 4 of these movies, each from different countries. That's what's insane. Like, there's that one, which was Austrian, that took place in the Victorian era. Because sure, just like in the movie. And then there was a Brazilian one in which the guy playing E.T. is wearing this like mesh E.T. outfit, and he's got like a double penis, which is just a carrot glued to his regular penis. The look on this girl's face was like, no. And so the guy loses the costume halfway into the movie, presumably because the actress was like, I don't, like, can we lose this, please? And so they did. And then there was one called E3, the extra testicle, which he did have an extra testicle. I guess they painted it green. I don't know. I couldn't show it on YouTube. You'll just have to trust me. He had 3 balls. And then when they did the 4th one, which was like 5 years ago, I think, they did the 4th one called E.T. XXX A Dream Zone Parody. And it was the only one that actually does spoof the plot of the movie. Here are these other movies that's like, oh, it's in Brazil, they're on a beach, and he's got 2 dicks, all right. And then there's the Austrian one in the Victorian era and some shit. It took 4 movies to be like, maybe we should actually spoof the plot. So they do. When E.T. leaves at the end, they're like, bye E.T., and it pans up to like the shot of the ship, and you just hear like this, like, honk, honk. Like before E.T. goes up, E.T.'s like, I'll be right here, and he like, psst, like zaps a girl in the crotch. It's actually kind of a funny movie. E.T. has a masturbation scene in it. Because, yeah. It's huge, by the way. Looks like Nickelodeon gag. You're like, ew, I had to watch it. I only masturbated to it twice. Any more questions? I insist they're E.T. porn related.
Can you talk a little bit more about the making of Jesus Bro?
Oh yeah, Jesus Bro was a movie we released last year. It was a parody film. It was a spoof of like PureFlix movies, like things like God's Not Dead, War Room. Like there's kind of been in the past few years there's been like a resurgence of these like evangelical movies. And a lot of them are pretty harsh, and they're pretty brutal to sit through. And we do a show called Midnight Screenings, which is we review all the new movies that come out, and those movies come to Springfield because we're in the middle of America. And those come out so we go see them. And in seeing a lot of these movies, you notice a lot of the same like kind of tropes and cliches that a lot of them have. And it got to a point where me and another guy on my site named David Gobble, he reviews movies with me as well. It got to a point where we were both like, we've seen so many of these movies at this point that we could kind of make a parody film out of these. Like, we know which story points to hit, we know which character cliches to hit, which we know the tropes that are in all these, what should maybe happen here, here, and here, what kind of like character archetypes could be in it, like, you know, the snooty atheist and like all, you know, all that stuff. So we were like, now that these movies have had this kind of resurgence, now's as good a time as any to do a parody film on these. So I wrote this script a few years ago called Jesus Bro that is, it was made to like be one of these movies, to like have its own like storyline and everything, but just hit on like all the cliches that these movies have. And there was a movie that came out not long after our movie that Kevin Sorbo directed that's called Let There Be Light, and it is the same plot as our movie. It would be like if, because how like Airplane is like a parody of Zero Hour, it would be like if Airplane came out before Zero Hour. And it's just a huge coincidence that these movies have similar plots. It's hilarious watching Let There Be Light and Jesus Bro back to back. So Let There Be Light is so bad, honestly, you can't tell which one's the parody at times. So the making of the movie, we crowdfunded it. And then we took a risk to crowdfund it because the movie wasn't, it's not like the Cinema Snob movie where it's got this established character. I mean, the character that David Gobble, who's the lead in Jesus Bro, he plays the atheist kind of caricature in it. There's a character called the Rickhead. And that actually does come from a show that I did called The Reviewers a few years ago. So we took that character and adapted it into this movie, but that show wasn't a huge hit. So a lot of people didn't know that that was like an established character. So we took a risk in crowdfunding it. You know, we weren't sure if we'd get the $50,000 for it, and we did, because we like busted our ass to promote it. Like we were doing like 12-hour live streams, we were doing different videos, like we really like, you know, we were pretty tired by the end of that crowdfunding campaign. And we got the funding that we need, we got a little bit more than the crowdfunding that we needed. So we shot it in November of 2016, and it was like a week-long shoot. My job on it was pretty easy. Like I wrote the script, so my job was to kind of over in pre-production, and I'm in the movie as a supporting character, but that took like half a day to shoot for my part, so I was really just doing like behind-the-scenes footage and everything. Everyone else had it way harder than I did. I got to take a break doing this. Even I was tired by the end of those days. No, but it was, there were no real problems or anything on the set. Everything went smooth. It had a good post-production time. It was by far and away the like smoothest movie that we'd shot. Like even ones that I didn't direct, including ones that I directed and didn't direct. Like this one was an easier shoot than like the Cinema Snob movie was, and even some of the other movies that I'd been in. It was just a really relaxing shoot. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun working on it. And it'll be, if the crowdfunding comes through on the sequel to the Snob movie, it'll be like the same group of us again. Ryan Mitchell will be directing it again. I'm finalizing them. We're in the midst of getting the script all finalized. Yeah, it'll be the same group of us, so we're really excited to do another big movie project. Yeah.
Any plans with Binge Watch?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I did a handful of episodes on this thing on my page called Binge Watch, where I just take a day and I binge watch through a season of something, and then I record like a few minutes after every episode. Like I did one on, I've done one on every every season of Fuller House. I've done one on like every season of Fuller House. I did one on that 80s show, the spin-off of that 70s show. I did one on the final season of Roseanne, not this recent one, but the final one where they won the lottery and shit. I did one on that. And so, there are some things I want to do with that show, but I guess I will do one on that recent Roseanne revival thing that they did. So I've seen the first few episodes of it, and so I did one on the final season, so I might as well do one on this season too, especially since it got canceled. I didn't hear why. What happened? So I'll probably, and whenever there's like another Fuller House, I'll do one on that. And yeah, I got some plans for that show in the future. Thanks for reminding me that show exists. I completely forgot. I have a lot of shows. Yeah.
Well, related to that, do you ever think you'll do something like a Crisis on Infinite Brads, where it's you as yourself and a Cinema Snob and Eddie's Dan, like all in a room together?
That sounds time consuming. Maybe a few years ago I might have done some. I did do, there's an older episode where I used to have this karate character on my site named Kung Tai Ted. They talk about these old karate and chopsaki movies, and I did an episode where like the Snob and him fought, and there were like obvious stand-ins and everything. No, I never thought about doing any kind of sketch like that, because I don't. Sometimes I have sketches and things, usually when it's like an anniversary episode, or I just get an idea. But I don't have a lot of heavy like post-production, and like my show's got a quick turnaround time because it really is just sitting there talking about the movie and editing and jokes and everything. And so there's not a lot of like heavy post-production effects and things like that put in there. Like I don't have a green screen or anything like that. That's why I love I love doing crossovers with Doug Walker. Those are a lot of fun to do because I get to do a lot more acting. I get to play a lot of different characters. I was just in one with him and Chris Stuckman on The Last Jedi, and I got to play Snoke in it. I got to play Han Solo and Snoke. So I got to play Snoke, so I got to sit in like the makeup chair, and Jim J. Roz put like all of these prosthetics on my face and everything. That was awesome to do. No, that's one thing I love about being in like those episodes, because it's fun to play different characters like that outside of just being the Cinema Snob.
So 2 questions.
Yeah.
Did you keep that role? And the other one is, are you going to do a return as Solo for when Doug does the Solo movie?
Is he doing an episode on Solo? I don't think he is. Or maybe they should get some like a younger version of me to play on Solo in it. I don't know if he's doing an episode on Solo. I think right now he's just kind of narrowing it down to, I could be wrong, but I think right now he's just narrowing it down to like the main Star Wars movies and maybe not the side ones. But the robe that I wore as Snoke, I had to wear this like freaking like tiger robe or some shit, like this, like I had this kind of Hugh Hefner look to me in the thing. No, I didn't get to keep that, unfortunately. I had to shave like, well, sometimes I have like my facial hair like shaved, but I always keep like just like a little bit of a stubble. When I was playing Snoke in that, I had to like just like straight razor, like shave it like all the way down, and that felt so weird because I had done that in like 15 years. But unfortunately now I didn't get to keep any of the robe or anything like that. I should have just come home with all those prosthetics on my face. Honey, I don't feel so good. Divorce. You know,
Shoot.
bless you. Is that your question? Yeah.
Does a movie like Old Fashioned still stick with you when you're like when you're thinking of jokes? Do you think I can make another Old Fashioned reference here?
Yeah, whenever someone's being creepy and Norman Batesy and something, I'll think about Old Fashioned. Old Fashioned is this movie. There's this movie that came out in 2014. It was supposed to be the religious movie equivalent to 50 Shades of Grey. Because sure, man, this 50 Shades is alright, but I wish it were more religious. Wish they said a prayer before the butt plug. So, this movie came out called Old Fashioned. I'd never seen a trailer for it. It was just on like the list of movies that were playing, and it was like the last day it was playing in Springfield. I'd never seen a trailer or anything. I could tell from the title that it was like a PureFlix movie. PureFlix is this company that puts out stuff like God's Not Dead and all those like evangelical movies. So I went into this film thinking like, okay, it's probably just gonna be like a love story and they don't have sex in it. That was really all I thought it was gonna be. Oh God, was I wrong. So this movie was only showing at 4 in the afternoon, so everyone else on my site was at work. So I had to go see this thing by myself. It's me sitting there in this theater with this family in front of me, this mom and her 3 daughters, each wearing matching sweater vests and like wooden crosses. I don't know, in case they need to build a wicker man at a moment's notice. And then there was this other guy by himself, this like 50-year-old dude by himself with the biggest popcorn he could buy, laughing at every stupid joke this movie has. So like there'll be a woman in the movie going like, I've never met a man I like better than chocolate. I've been married 3 times. And like the guy sitting next to me is like, like dude, like at least I have an excuse to be here by myself. He's got to race home and finish watching a Reba marathon. So this was rough to sit through because the guy was really Norman Batesy. Like he would his character refuses to be alone in a room with a woman, which is what a rapist says. So when this was happening in the movie, this happens at the beginning of the film, he's like, I refuse to be alone in a room with a woman unless I'm married. I'm like, okay. Like, this is gonna turn into a shower scene quick. It was, God, I really hated sitting through that movie. Blindsided me. What else happened? He proposes to her at the end in the baby food aisle in the store. And he's like, sorry, a little on the nose. Like fuck off. Like, run, girl, run. You can do so much better. No, that was, so anytime, I later did a Cinema Snob episode on it, and anytime now that there's some character in a movie acting like really Norman Bates-ish, or just like, someone who's just creepy, like unintentionally creepy, I usually throw out a Clay Walsh reference. Clay Walsh was the name of the character in Old Fashioned. I really want to meet the guy who made Old Fashioned. Maybe he could be in the Snob Movie too. We only have a couple roles cast so far in Snob Movie 2. We're going to do more and reveal more casting as the Indiegogo comes along. Right now, myself and Yayo Gutierrez are cast in the movie. He's a huge YouTuber. He's a really good guy too. And he plays my character's agent in the movie. So we're cast, but like we're going to be doing some more casting on down the road. And man, Rick Schwartzwelder, from the writer and director and star of Old Fashioned, I would work with him in a heartbeat. Dude, teach me to be unintentionally creepy. What is that? There's ghost children in the back. Anyone else? What? Come on in, children. This is an all ages panel. I've only said fuck 50 times.
So then you saw Voiceless not long after that, that one didn't surprise you, right? You knew that was coming.
No, Voiceless is a movie that's like an anti-Planned Parenthood movie. That, yeah, I knew what I was getting into with that. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be shot like an episode of The Wire. Or that's another one where like the lead character is supposed to be like our moral compass of the film, but in any other movie, it would end with him going on like a mass shooting spree. Like that's the kind of movie Voiceless is. But I wasn't sitting there like flabbergasted by that, because again, it was more or less what I thought it was going to be. The really old-fashioned, I think, is about the maddest I got while watching some of these, and I'm kind of used to it now, but like, Voiceless was, you watched Voiceless when I did it as an episode of the Cinema Snob. What'd you think, honey?
I think I fell asleep in that one too.
What?
I think I fell asleep in that one
How
too.
could you fall asleep during Voiceless? It's endlessly entertaining. That was what Brian Lewis is another reviewer on my site. He put that as like the #1 worst movie of the year that year. I think the rest of us put Dinesh D'Souza's movie. Brian put Voiceless though. He was the odd man out. What time is it, by the way?
My phone's.
Oh, sweet, I got 3 hours left. I can do this. No, I think I got about 15 minutes left.
Well, I got to ask about Dancing It's On.
Oh, Dancing It's On. Dancing It's On is a David Winters movie. David Winters is a professional dancer. He was in West Side Story. Had done a lot of like television work, dancing work. He's also like an action movie director. He did Space Mutiny back in the 80s, the Red Brown movie. It's a long career. So, 2-3 years ago, he did this movie called Dancing It's On, which is basically the Room of dancing movies. Like, I know people say that a lot, where like, this movie is the Room of insert genre here. No, this really is. Like, it really is that bizarre. Like, I found one theater showing it. There was like an hour outside of Detroit, Michigan. And it was playing at this United Artists Theater, which was lit like The Running Man. Like I'm watching it in this like future movie, a future movie was made in the 80s. It was really darkly lit, there was no one in there. There was like one guy behind like the window taking tickets. You couldn't even see him. It was like checking into a seedy hotel. Like I'm taking a hooker to go see Dancing It's On. This movie's $30 a minute. So it was a movie that was starring contestants on the reality show So You Think You Could Dance. And it was, do I even need to say anything else? The whole movie was ADR, and there's this insane shit happening. It's like they're doing this Romeo and Juliet type thing, but with a dance competition. And like it's all ADR and shit like that. Like the one guy's got the dude in the movie's got an anger montage where he's getting through his anger by dancing his anger away. And behind him there's a mime acting out his anger. And then it cuts to a Vietnam flashback. Randomly, just this young guy is having this anger dance montage. Then it cuts to an exploding helicopter. And David Winters, who's in the movie, and his character's son died in either Vietnam or maybe Iraq, just wakes up like, so he's dreaming about exploding helicopters. And then he goes to train the young guy in the movie, and he says, you can play baseball, you can play basketball, but you can't play dance. This movie's so good. Oh my god, there's this wise sage doorman in the movie who looks a lot like Jar Jar Binks. Like, this wise sage doorman, where this is all this character lives for. He apparently has a 24-hour shift as a doorman at this hotel, where there will just be random people on stilts in the background, like it's Caligula. So, there'll be all this shit going on in the background. And he'll, like, the girl will be sitting there like, oh, I love this man, like, blah, blah. And then wise sage doorman will just come will just dance into the shot, like, and then he'll just give her advice that he just read from a fortune cookie. He'll just be like, let me tell you something, girl. It is always darkest before the dawn. And like walks off screen, and the girl's just like, oh, wow, This is the best advice she's ever given. I love this fucking movie, by the way. Like, I bought this movie. I found, when I decided to do it, I did it as an episode on the Cinema Snob. And I found one family video. This is a video store chain here where I live. I found one family video that had a copy of it. And it was in this town called Riverton outside of Springfield. So I drove there at like 11 o'clock at night and couldn't find it on the shelves. I'm like, where's Dancing It's On? And so I went up to the lady and was like, yeah, do you have Dancing It's On? And she's looking it up. She's like, I don't see it. And I go, here's your problem. You're spelling the first title with a G. It's Dancing It's On. She's like, you're right. And then she typed that in and she's like, here it is. It had fallen behind the shelf. And it was so dusty. She's like, I've never heard of this movie. I'm like, oh, it's a shame I'm buying it from you. You really should have watched this film. Please watch Dancing It's On. God damn, this movie's, it's inspiring. Like the fucking opening credits look like somebody's just old cheerleader footage and they just use Comic Sans opening credits for it. It seems like the kind of movie that was originally intended to be a musical, but maybe the actors couldn't sing, or maybe they just didn't have the technical capability to have the characters singing. I don't know. So whenever a song does come on the soundtrack, it's a song that is singing about things the characters are doing. Like the girl goes and she's like hanging out in her hotel room, watching like this carnival across the street, and then this song starts playing. It's like, I don't want to be stuck in my room. Like it's like describing what she's doing. Who is this person? Why is he watching me? Any other Dancing It's On related question? No more Dancing It's On questions? Man, we talk hours about this movie. Someone has to. I'm the only fucking person who saw it in the theater. Support this movie, seriously. No, but I should pimp out my Indiegogo page once more, in case someone's watching this on YouTube and just skips to the very end. Stay tuned for our sequel to the Cinema Snob movie, which is called Another Cinema Snob Movie. Right now, this is like day 2 of the Indiegogo campaign. It's a 45-day campaign, so check it out. Go to our website, thecinemasnob.com. Look in the description of this video. Go follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thecinemasnob. You'll see links everywhere that we'll be posting for this Indiegogo campaign. It's one of those like all or nothing campaigns. With Jesus Bro, it was a flexible campaign. Like we were asking for 50,000, but let's say Jesus Bro only brought in 30. Like we still would have made the movie. We would have made some cuts, but we still would have made the movie. This one is like an all or nothing one. Either we get 50,000 to make it, or no sequel. Or maybe I'll just shoot it on my own, like video game. Maybe then you'll get the thing you're talking about with like the different characters fighting in a room. Or maybe we'll do like one of those sequels like that's just like stock footage from the first movie. Like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, or Boogeyman 2, where it could just be me in an insane asylum, and like 80% of the movie is just flashbacks to the first film. Any final questions?
Is there any chance Alison Pryder might have a role?
I don't think so. I don't know what the casting is yet for this movie. So I have different people in mind for different roles. But I gotta, some of them I'm kind of in conversation with some of them right now. So right now we're mainly focused on the funding, but some of us are working on funding and all the advertising for that, and there is some like casting negotiation and things like that that are going on. We want part of our like stretch goals on the campaign, because we'd like to get a lot more than 50. Like for 50 we could make the movie, but we want like stretch goals past 50 to try to get like some names in it. The character of the snob's dad is in the movie, and we really want like a name for that. And I won't reveal it now, but like I have someone in mind who's like my dream casting to play the snob's dad, and it's possible. We might be able to get this person. It's possible. We're gonna reach out to a lot of different people for different roles in this. One reason for wanting to do a sequel, other than, yeah, we got a really good idea for it, we think it'll be a really damn good movie, but also we just have better technical capabilities now than we did with the first movie. I love the first film. I think the first film turned out really, really cool, especially for like a YouTube movie where it's really not that dependent on having seen the show. So it would be nice to do a follow-up, to not only do a follow-up to that, but also, since we just have, our skills are a lot better now than we made the first one. The first one had some problems with sound, and I got this fakey ass beard in the first movie. It's kind of funny, but also super cheap. So it'll be nice to have this movie too, to really kind of show off a lot of skills that we've improved upon since doing the first film. And who knows, if this movie does well, it'd actually be pretty cool to make a series of these different adventures that this character is going on. The first movie was very much like a Giallo-style thriller. This one is more like a 70s road movie. So it's got like a lot of nods in it to things like Two-Lane Blacktop, Vanishing Point, like even stuff like Tourist Trap. Like it's got like a cannibal family at one point. It's got this clown museum in it at another point in the script. It should be a lot of fun. So fingers crossed. Let's hope we get the funding for it. But I think that's about all the time I have. So if you want to stop by our table, we'll be here for the rest of the day. And follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob, and subscribe to us at youtube.com/Stoned Gremlin Productions, and help support our Indiegogo channel too. Like, we really want to make this movie. So thanks a bunch everyone for coming.